Danny Segura for MMA Junkie. I'm here with Arjan Bhullar, one championship heavyweight champion who is ready to defend his belt against Anatoly Malykhin on one Friday, Fight Nights 22 on June 23rd. It's going to be a unification bout between the two. Very big fight for one championship and the company. First of all, Arjan, how are you? And welcome.
Thank you. I'm doing great. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
So yeah, man, big fight. Obviously this fight was, it's been in the making for quite some time. It was supposed to happen back in September, but you withdrew due to injury. I believe you had a surgery right on your arm. Then it got moved to July, then June. There was kind of some switching in dates. What's this road been like? Kind of just having that opponent in mind the entire time and having all these dates, be switched around.
It's been frustrating. The fun is competing and making money and being in front of fans. The training's the most difficult part of all this. So it's been frustrating. But I've had this guy swirling around my life and in my head for a while. I'm excited to get out there and take care of him and move on.
Yeah, has it been a situation where you just kind of just want to get this over with, right? Like you've been thinking about this guy for so many months, something that you probably haven't experienced throughout your career, right? It's usually a date and then the fight goes down. Is that what it comes down to? Are you almost like relieved that, we're getting closer here to the fight?
Absolutely. I'm an athlete. I like to compete. That's what it's about. Getting a date, going out there, being active. And I have not been able to be active in quite some time. But, I got a direct line with Chatri, and I've expressed that to him, and he wants me out there. India is a very big market for one. It's the reason I signed over from the UFC to one, and I'm excited for the near future here.
Yeah. And if you can explain, maybe you don't have to go into all the details, but we know that the initial change in date was because of injury on your part. What about the others? Was it still an injury, maybe from his part, yours, or were there other things in play?
So when I won the belt, you're a fighter before that, then you're a champion, and you need, my team, my management said, hey, look, we need to get you championship level pay now. So we wanted to renegotiate a new deal, which we did, but that took one whole year, which was very, very frustrating. And in that time, they introduced this fake belt and made this guy dress up and go pretend to be a champion out there as the interim champ. So that's what promotions do when you're in contract negotiations. That's how they try to leverage or take value off of the actual belt. They have two guys out there with a belt. So that's what happened there. Then I wanted to get booked. I was supposed to get booked. They announced the Amazon deal. Then they wanted DJ on that debut event, dragging it out. Finally, I get booked. And then I get hurt. I had to go get surgery. And after 3 months, I got cleared from my doctor, but they elected to take the 6 months, which they contractually can for any injury to drag a fighter out. That's what they did. After that 6 months was up, they booked me, and that was, I believe, for March. I put on a full camp. I was a week or two out, very close, and then got a call that there's broadcast issues with one of the broadcast partners, and they had to rebook us. That call again, I was able to connect with Chatri, and basically, after once I got hurt, I was very frustrated. I'm like, look, I've been out for this long already, so I cut out the middlemen. My management were talking to him or his people. It was just me and him direct. So when that broadcast issue came up, he explained it to me, and he took care of me for my camp, which was I was very gracious of him. I was able to take care of my coaches, my family, and then we got rebooked. In the meantime, I was able to go to India, do a whole press tour, which is what I always wanted to do, to pump up fights and the Indian market and all of that. I'm not a one-track mind athlete. I like to do something for the promotion as well, and that's where I felt my value was for them. So I was happy to do that, and then we get rebooked for here. So that's sort of how it went. But most importantly, I've got a direct line with Chatri, and things have been great, and I'm excited to continue that relationship.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a long road, and throughout that process, some frustrations, but all good now with your contract and your relationship with one. Everything's going great.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited to go compete now.
Mhm. And you had said, the fake champion. So, is it because of the interim title, or maybe are you not impressed with the body of work that you've seen here from Malykhin? Can you elaborate on that?
No, I mean you have to give it to him. In my absence, he's gone out there and he's won. And he's won, he's undefeated. He's won in impressive fashion, stopped all of his opponents. You have to give him that. Uh, but to break down in tears winning an interim title while the champion's not there, and not because he doesn't want to be there, that's ridiculous to me. I would not even call myself a heavyweight champion if I was him. I call myself a light heavyweight champion, and that's it. But to each their own. Everyone's different. If he feels he's a champion, good for him. On June 23rd, we're going to settle it.
Mhm. And you've been tested in the UFC, obviously here at one as well. Where would you rank Anatoly in among the opponents that you faced in the past? Do you think he's your toughest? Do you feel like you've seen tougher opposition in the past?
We're going to find out. The great Teddy Atlas said, you have to behave as a champion. You have to show that you have that to be a champion. Um, you know, Devin Haney and Lomachenko's had a great fight. Devin Haney behaved as a champion in that 12th round. He got beat up in 10 and 11. He came back in the 12th to win that 12th round. That's a champion, although I didn't think he won that fight. He hasn't, Anatoly hasn't shown he can behave as a champion because he hasn't been tested. And we're going to find out. Do I think he's dangerous? Sure. Do I think Brandon Vera was dangerous? Absolutely. He knocked guys out with his shin. He's knocked guys out with his hands. He's hurt people with his knees, his elbows. He's good off his back. So you could say he had more weapons than Anatoly. And he wasn't able to land anything on me. So let's see. Anatoly has a left hand, a right hand. He likes to wrestle. Let's see what he is. Let's see if he is a champion. I don't think he is. I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I think I'm great. I think I have a higher level than he does. I think I'm more complete. I think I have better character than he does. And I think all of that is going to be shown June 23rd.
Yeah, super excited about that bout. But let me now ask you just about your career in general. Since you signed with one, you've only competed twice. You just voiced like some frustrations with that. Moving forward, I'm guessing you want to be active, and is that what we can expect? More activity from your part?
Absolutely. In my new deal, I fought for that to have. Hey, I need a guarantee of 3 fights. There was COVID before, okay, but after that, like athletes need to stay active. That's how we make money. Number one, and provide for our families. That's how you stay sharp. And when you're in your prime, you want to get out there. You want to compete. And I check all those boxes. I want to do. Those are the reasons I want to stay active. And in return, India is a priority market. I think I could do great things for the company. So I've expressed those feelings to Chaudhry directly. He's in line with me. And we already have the next fight penciled in, and it's going to be before the end of this year. And there's a great date that I think makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to bring a live event to India. That's what needs to happen after this. I take care of Anatoly the way I'm planning to, and I show that I am the undisputed champion. I think it's time to bring a live event to India. The country's ready for it. The people, the fans are ready for it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. Super interesting stuff there. Obviously, population wise, like India's huge, right? But we don't really see Bellator, UFC, even one championship like hosting events there. More than I do, obviously. How is the market? Do you feel like a lot of people are now interested into MMA? I know Super Fight League was like a thing for some time. I think it's no longer. But talk to us about the market and sort of the big opportunity that you see there for MMA.
There's a couple other regional promotions that are operating too, but you named the UFC, you named Bellator, you named one. Out of those 3, there's only one athlete that makes sense to go throw an event there, and that's me. I am a world champion. I hold the belt. You need an athlete to go into a market with. They're not going to India because they don't have anybody to go there with. You're not going to take Mexicans or Chinese or Irish and go into India. That doesn't make sense. So Bellator can't do it. The UFC can't do it. One can do it. And I think it's time to get going.
Yeah. You've never fought in India, right? Correct?
Correct.
What would it mean to fight on home soil? Because
it would be huge.
It would be a big deal for you.
It would be massive. It's the reason I was a free agent. I had a deal on the table from the UFC. I left with multiple wins. for a reason. Because of that, I want to do that. I don't want to fight in Canada. Canada's up the street, and it's not impactful for me. It's not historic. It's been done. India is the bet, and like you said, it's overtaken in China in terms of the biggest population in the world. And you got Star Sports, which is in 800 million homes. So we need to get going. It's as simple as that. And I think the fight after this is the one that makes sense.
Yeah. And you've brought this obviously to Chatra. You're very vocal about this. What has been his reception, just like the one championship brass overall?
Oh, he's on board. He loves it. Again, this stuff wasn't expressed to him from me to him before. It was expressed to some of his people. It was expressed by my people to his people. But they have, like I said, they have a broadcast deal with Star Sports, and obviously that's for a reason. They value that market and they want to do something in that market. And when you have a champion with that heritage, it's a perfect opportunity to capitalize on that. So they want to do it, I want to do it, and it's a matter of doing it now.
Yeah, and just a couple more questions. Obviously, one championship was big on the news because of possibly signing Francis Ngannou as a free agent. A fellow heavyweight, former UFC heavyweight champion. He now signed with PFL. Were you sad to see that happen? I mean, I'm assuming you, as a champion, you would want the biggest challenges, the biggest fights possible, right? And he was probably one of them. Your thoughts on Francis Ngannou, signing with the PFL?
Yeah, that was mixed feelings. First off, good on him. He was able to beat the machine and get a great deal for himself. It proves MMA is real because he's the highest paid heavyweight of all time, and it's outside the UFC. So the UFC isn't the entire sport. MMA is a real option. There are other promotions, and he proved that. And he's the second highest paid fighter of all time now because of that deal. Potentially the highest paid, depending on how his boxing goes. So, and all that again is outside the UFC. So good on him for betting on himself and cashing in. But yeah, I would have loved for it to be within one championship. I'm an athlete. I like to test myself against the best. He is the lineal MMA champion of the world. He holds that title and that prestige right now. I would have loved to be able to compete for that. Not saying it's not a possibility still. It could potentially be an even bigger fight if we're able to co-promote, to be quite honest with you. And let's see how things play out for him. But for me, it starts with Anatoly. I got to take care of him and the right way, and then anything's possible.
Yeah. How big of a possibility do you think that is? It's happened before, co-promoting, but it's not something in MMA we see very, very often.
I agree. But I think there's pros for both sides. Imagine doing that fight in India, where there's 130,000 seat or stadium, cricket stadium. You have 1 billion plus. There's never been a huge fight like that done. It's a priority market for one. Imagine that, and he is a lineal MMA heavyweight champion. So there's something there. We get that. That's not something the UFC owns. That's not something Dana owns. That's outside their control now, and that's up for grabs. So there's a lot there. If I'm the PFL and you think you got the baddest man, I don't see why they wouldn't put that up. So there's pros for both sides to get it done. There's a lot of money, a lot of exposure to be had there. And to be honest, the other promotions, they got to make moves with Endeavor acquiring the WWE. There has to be a counter move. And I think that is the move.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Just one more question on that topic. Do you think, as you mentioned, he beat the machine. Do you feel like this move will have repercussions in the MMA landscape and it'll change, the way things are? Or do you think it's more like a flash in the pan type thing? How do you view this in the grand scheme of things?
It's tough. It's very, very tough with the way the contracts are structured. They're very restrictive, and guys can't get to free agency. That's just the way it works. He was lucky; he was able to because of the lawsuit of the fighters have the class action suit out there with Fitch and Kung Lee and all those guys. Because of that, the UFC had to introduce a sunset clause, which was the only promotion in the world that basically has an end date on their contracts. That allowed Francis to get free. He was able to knock everybody out that they put in front of him and not sign a new deal and get free. And Nate Diaz was able to do the same because of that. Usually that doesn't happen because either they match you up poorly, like they tried to do with Chimaev and Nate, so he loses on the way out, or they just can't get free. But from my understanding, they changed your contracts to make it even tougher now to get to that sunset clause. So it's tough, but it's doable. But it's very, very tough. But I think what happens is now fighters do see there's an opportunity to make money outside of the UFC. Do they want to? Do they want to just be, hey, I'm a UFC fighter and work a day job for the rest of their life and just say, hey, I did that once? Or do they want to make real money and potentially retire and take care of their family that way and live off their investments? There's pros and cons to both sides, but the way these fighters come in, they're young, they get excited, they see the brand because there's a lot of marketing dollars there. But like for example, you got guys that DJ might be doing a grappling match now. He's one of the goats in the entire sport. He left, he's at one, he got the bag, and now he's gonna go grapple as well. And if he wants to box, he can box. He wants to kickbox, he can kickbox. You can do a little bit of everything. So it really depends what you want to do. For me, it makes sense for one. And India is a priority market, and the UFC has no plans for that. So it makes sense for me to be here.
Well, Arjan, I appreciate the time. I know you got to go train. You got a big fight ahead. So we'll end things here. But thank you so much for the time. And I just want to remind people, June 23rd, one Fight Nights 22 in the main event, a title unification bout between two great heavyweights, Arjan Bhullar taking on Anatoly Malykhin here. It's going to be a fantastic bout, so make sure not to miss it.